Welcome to Elementary, Mondays at 6. And I hope you're having a fabulous Monday wherever you are. The weather's been pretty good so far. We've had some fabulous days. And today's guest, I am so excited to interview this guest, and I hope you will be excited to hear what she has to say too. So she's going to ask me to join any minute. And yeah, so once she asks, and we'll get started. And hopefully you'll love the show. I can't wait to share what I have in store for you today. But like I said, I hope you had a fabulous day. Hi, Danae.
Hi, Jacqueline.
How are
I
you?
am so thrilled to be here with you today.
Me as well. Me as well. Thank you so much. So I'm sure our guests will start pouring in. We'll just do our thing and get started.
Sounds
So, yeah, introduce yourself and your Instagram handle for me.
definitely. So, my name's Danae. It sounds like Renee. My Instagram handle is my first and last name, Danae Robinett.
Perfect. At Danae Robinett. So, if you're not following her, I would suggest to go follow her. You love her page and what she has to share. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, where you're located.
Yes, I am a yoga teacher, teaching for 19 years now, a
Wow.
retreat leader for 12 years. I am a caregiver to my father, who's a three-time
Oh,
cancer warrior. I offer private yoga support and I also teach a yoga class for credit at a local university. I'm based in the Bay Area, so in San Francisco.
wow. Beautiful. What a
Yes.
beautiful area to be.
Toronto
Yeah.
was very nice too. I visited and I felt like it was a much cleaner San Francisco when I went, I think in 1998.
Toronto is beautiful for sure. It's a beautiful area. And it's we have to deal with, colder weather, that kind of stuff. But you can't have everything, right? Um, yeah, you can't have everything. Um, so tell me like about your journey into yoga, like what inspired you, how you got started. I want to know everything.
Absolutely. I'm here to spill the tea with you. So my first experience with yoga was simply a coworker dragging me to a class, who didn't say what it was, just knew I had a background in dance and thought I would really like it. And it turned out to be Bikram. So if we're not sure what Bikram means, just someone's name, basically. However, it is a style of yoga that's in really hot temperature, lots of heat, added humidity. And so as a dancer, I didn't mind the sweating. But the teacher was such a drill sergeant and scolded me even because I did something differently. And thankfully, the last part of yoga we call Shavasana, where we rest and relax. Um, I felt amazing during that and also walking to my car. And so I thought, even though the teacher didn't resonate with me, I think I want to explore this a little further. And I do thank that teacher to this day because they've gone on to shape and inform how I actually conduct my classes, which is to be nurturing and encouraging and uplifting, instead of that drill sergeant vibe that I experienced. So that was in 1999. And I just, thankfully, being in the Bay Area, there was so much yoga at that time. And I kept exploring, taking different classes, and finally decided to learn more with my teacher training in 2005 and immediately started teaching after completing that. So,
Yoga is, I like yoga. I love it. I actually like the hot yoga, which is weird because I feel like I am there and I'm committed and I have to stay there. But it's the vibe, right? Like, you were talking about scolding. I know, not too long ago I went for a class and this teacher was like really good, very flexible. I'm not flexible at all. But I do my thing and I'm going to do what I can do and I'm going to follow along. And I just say, ignore me at the back of the class, just do your thing. I'll do as much as I can, but I'm very competitive. So it makes me kind of stay in that.
Mm.
But you know, the teacher makes a difference, right? I'm very picky about which class I pick just because of the teacher. If the teacher doesn't have that good vibe, and this one teacher is really good, but they're very good at it almost makes you feel like inept because they're so good and they're so big on their like their style of it, you know? That I'm like, oh God, I came to the wrong class. Like I know I came to this very hard class, but I'm like in the wrong place. Like this is not me, right? I just came to have fun, you know? Yeah, so I kind of understand what you're saying.
I think it's a sensitive place to
Yeah,
be, right? As a teacher,
yeah,
but also as a student, right? I have the belief that come to as many classes as possible. Whether it's the time slot that is attracting you or it's the teacher that's attracting you, and sample around so you really get a sense of what resonates for you, what feels good in your body. Um, yeah. So I encourage you to try and take a risk. Like you never know until you give it a go. And
yeah,
flexibility is it's more important in the mind than in the body, really, you know?
yeah. So I tell myself. But so what do you specialize in? Like what style of yoga and like do you incorporate yeah, just tell us what style of yoga and then we can move on to the
Sure.
second part of my question.
So I think I make it really hard for a studio owner to answer this question because I really specialize in who shows up, right? So if we have a pregnant goddess, right, we're not going to do core work. If someone's really nursing some wrist stuff from maybe carpal tunnel, too much work on screens, then we're not going to bear weight in the arms, right? So I really like to tailor it to actually the core group of people who show up again and again. So I primarily teach vinyasa. Vinyasa, that's like a bit of a
Flow.
flow where
Yeah.
there's a bit of sweat,
Yeah.
right? Is built in the body.
Hard though.
And it can be
Yeah.
hard, it can be challenging. And also, maybe if energy is low, then we scale back, we do less is more, right? I love to lead a practice called Yoga Nidra. And that means sleep in Sanskrit. And so you lay down, you listen, and you just deeply relax. Um, so I like to make sure people have fun, as you mentioned before, right? I
Mm.
think it's a sacred practice, but it doesn't have to be uptight or serious. So I like to crack jokes, keep it light, but make sure people move their body, get a sense of strength. Balance is so important as we are aging. Yoga teaches us how to stand on our own two legs. So that's kind of what I specialize in.
I like that piece about it, you know, the balance piece, that just being in touch and, you know, just feeling like I go for a yoga class and I feel like I've gotten like stretched out or something. I don't know, like how to explain it. Like I'm a short person, so I feel like I'm like at least an inch taller when I finish.
You're absolutely right. No, posture improves, right? Breath capacity increases. So absolutely, you're totally right. You do have that sense of length
Yeah.
increasing. Yeah.
So I want to kind of bring the next part into part of what you do, and I understand part of what you do is retreats, and I want to then, you know, let's talk about the retreats and then talk about, you know, how you kind of mesh the yoga into the retreats, and
Sure.
yeah,
So retreats are so fun, and but it's not a vacation, right? It's
yeah,
it's a bit of work is involved in going on a
mm,
retreat, and it's in the name, right? Retreat, treat is in the word itself, and also the ray, like stepping back, taking a moment to pause, to reflect. Um, so when students come on retreat, whether it's local or international, they have to get there, right? So that's how it even starts, just the journey. So whether that's a drive in the car, a plane ride, a long haul international flight, that's when the retreat begins. And they start to distance themselves from the life they're leaving and coming into this place that they're going to be experiencing, which is being in a group of perhaps strangers. Welcome to all those that are joining.
yeah,
Um,
welcome.
uh, and so, there's an opportunity to deepen the practice. There's an opportunity to experience a different culture, whether through food or customs. Uh, I've taken people to Bali where we've had a Balinese dance lesson, to Iceland where we've experienced the landscape, which is stunning, positively stunning in Iceland. And so retreats require a little bit of an open mind, open heart, right? Because there's going to be, maybe you're going to pair with a roommate, maybe you'll have your private space. All sorts of things can come up on retreat. People maybe have never traveled far away from home before, so that's a learning in itself. So lots of learning happens on retreat, a lot of unlearning happens, unpacking, unraveling, getting down to the real core values. You know, what's important to you. Folks will often realize some things they need to put into practice once they get home, whether that's just waking up early, you know, eating well. Food is super important on retreat so that students feel well fed and nourished. So maybe they want to adopt those practices back home to eat better. And of course, the yoga, the meditation, the breathing, all of that.
So that was my earlier piece. So for those of you who just joined, I'm talking to Danae today, and we'll repeat her Instagram handle at the end as well, so you'll get to follow her as well. But Danae is a yoga teacher. She's been teaching for a long time, like a long, long time, and she also does these retreats. That's what we were talking about when you joined. So thank you for joining us today. And so you do incorporate some of your yoga practice
Yeah.
teaching in your retreats as well.
Yes, absolutely. So it seems the trend in yoga studios is to have a 1 hour class, maybe a 75-minute. I really like to give a 2 hour morning practice, right? So it's much more substantial than maybe what students are accustomed to. But again, we're on retreat. We're in a deep dive immersion kind of mode. So there's always optional morning meditation and pranayama, that's breath work. And then a grab and go breakfast, something light, a 2 hour practice. And then there's time and space, depending if we are in a place outside the US where we can experience more culture, there might be excursions or activities. But I really like to keep the simplicity. People are coming on retreat to not go boom, 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 boom with all the activity, but to really kind of settle back into the body, get more grounded, more steady. So lots of time and space to read, to simply rest, to claim time to rest, to walk the grounds, to be in nature.
Yeah, very nice. So for those of you that just joined us, if you have a question, there's a question icon below. You can drop your question in there or in the comments, and I'll follow along. And if you feel like, not asking a question in public and just DMing us later on, we'll make sure you get the answer as well. So how do you then, and I think you've answered this previously, but how do you kind of manage, how do you balance and have a more inclusive, environment with participants of like different, levels
Yes,
of or
that's
backgrounds? Yeah.
such a good question. Such a good question, right? So it's the belief that I have that yoga is for everyone, and also monitoring and managing expectation as well as ability and challenge. So all those things come together in a class, in the framework of a class. So no matter your skill set, because we've had some students come for the first time that this was their first experience with yoga, all the way up to other yoga teachers join me on my retreats, which I feel so honored when another teacher wishes to come along with one of my retreats. So the skill set is vast and wide. And I think it's part of how I teach. I like to realize that body is capable in so many ways, right? Like if we think of downward dog, for instance, is a shape maybe we know. It looks like an A or a triangle, right? Weight is bared on feet and hands, all four. Well, it can also be on the forearms, right? So no wrists are being strained, right? If that's an issue. There's high lunge and low lunge. Knee is lifted off the mat, knee is down, right? There's no hierarchy with the poses. I think sometimes that does happen. People think, oh, I have to do this harder pose. That's the better thing. But no, not at all. Like be who you are as you are in the moment, right? That's what's most important. So I create that culture where people feel welcome to give it a try, and also know that there's so many adaptations, so many possibilities. You know, things can be done standing, they can be done on the back, supine. And I love to create all of that. It's almost like several private sessions going on in one group class, you know?
Yeah.
So everyone
Yeah,
is having their needs
absolutely.
met and
Yeah,
addressed.
that's good. So how do you like create mindfulness and meditation? Or do you create that in your retreats?
Yes,
And and what benefits do you think they bring for people that attend?
sure. So yes to the mindfulness piece, absolutely. We've experienced silent lunches or a silent meal. So
Hmm.
one meal a day where it's just in silence. So to just be inward, right? There's also a concept called noble silence. Hi, Mortgaged by Kimberly. We'll get to your
Yeah.
moment. Thank you. There's also noble silence where it's just complete silence, usually in the evening, right? So maybe after dinner, all the way until the next morning, again, to go and be more inward and internal with yourself. And then as far as meditation goes, yes, I do offer it. I think it is important in our times to, you know, have that clarity in the mind. So I provide so many different types of prompts, whether it's visual or using words, so folks can tap into whatever technique resonates with them the most. And then another mindfulness piece that we touch on is gratitude. You know, gratitude, to have a grateful heart is so important.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. So important. I think we fly around our daily lives, and sometimes, um, I know I say it quite a bit on my posts and stuff, but I'm truly grateful. And people might think I'm like little woo woo, but I am truly grateful because I feel like it doesn't matter. I think people are so, not everyone, but I think sometimes people just go around this world thinking about the stuff they don't have versus how much you do have. Me personally, I'm very grateful for my achievements, the people I work with. And when I say people I work with, I'm a sole entrepreneur. But everybody else that brings you know, so much into my life makes me grateful. Whether they're working with one of my clients on a mortgage, whether they're going in as a cleaner to clean one of my homes that I'm getting ready to list, or, a stager, or, countless amount of things. If I didn't name you, please don't get upset. But I do, appreciate, and I'm always thoughtful about that piece. And I'm grateful every day that I have all of these people who can, you know, enrich my life, really,
Yes,
and
yeah,
my clients, right? But
absolutely.
yeah,
No, the gratitude piece is essential. You know, we get to do this work, you and I, right? Instead of I have to, I get
yeah,
to, right?
yeah,
Teach
yeah.
yoga, I
That's
get
the
to help people find the home that they've been searching for. Yes, it's such a great reframe.
yeah. You're absolutely right. You don't have to do it, but you get to do it, and that's the most important part about it. So, tell us about. Do you have an upcoming retreat? So let's start with
I
that.
do. In fact, it's very exciting. I am taking women to Santa Fe, New Mexico in June.
Oh,
So from
mm,
June 6th through the 9th, it falls on new moon, which is a potent time for setting new intentions and beginning new practices, right? And if anyone's never been to Santa Fe or just New Mexico in general, the light pollution doesn't exist. So on a new moon, it'll be an inky black sky with 1,000,001 stars. It'll just be so stunning at night. And so this retreat is open to women only. I do have retreats where it's co-ed, but this one just formed as an opportunity for women to gather and claim time to rest, to be nourished and well fed, to get all that great yoga. So it's called Clarity and Connection. 4 nights, oh, excuse me, 4 days, 3 nights. And we only
wow.
have 3 spots left. So
Is there a limit as to how many people you take in the group, or?
But I was hoping that it would be a smaller number this time around. We'll see how it pans out. You know, sometimes people make last minute changes, but we have three remaining spots.
Very nice.
Well,
So, Kimberly asked about your style of yoga, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but let's address that question.
absolutely. I appreciate that. Let's get to the question. I love the questions. So, Kimberly, great question. I teach all sorts of things, but my real style of yoga is that I meet people as they are, wherever they are. So, um, more or less, it's vinyasa, but it's a vinyasa that is providing lots of adaptations, lots of possibilities, and meeting the bhavana, which is a Sanskrit word for like the vibe, the
Mhm.
energy. So whether you're really excited, maybe we're going to kick your asana, you know, build a little heat and sweat, or you need a little more slower tempo, more relaxation. I also lead restorative yoga, yin yoga, the lunar practices, including yoga nidra. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, perfect. And so, what advice would you give someone who was considering, attending one of your yoga retreats, if they were like a first timer?
Mhm.
Um, they don't have to, not, this one, but any retreat. If they were a first timer, whether they've been to yoga, haven't been to yoga, thinking about it, what advice would you give them?
So I would encourage them to think like, is this going to work for my schedule, right? Is this a time when I want to travel? So this will be June in Santa Fe. It'll be warm. That
Mhm.
might feel really good for folks that are in Toronto, right? Uh, um,
It's warm
converse,
here in Toronto at the same time. Yeah.
con- conversely, if you want, you know, to really see a place, right? If you want the
Mhm.
location. So it could be based on dates, you're choosing around dates, right? You got certain time off of work, boom, that's the choice to make, right? Or it's the location. You know, my first retreat that I attended as a student in 2009 was to Bali. All I wanted to do was get to Bali, right? And I redeemed airline miles. I bought
Suddenly.
some too, and I got myself there, right? I didn't know the teacher. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted to be on Bali. So then that's a consideration, location. The third might be the teacher. You either know them or you don't know them. Um, Oftentimes it's like a mix. Students I've never met before, they come and meet me
Wow.
for the very first time on retreat. And for those students, I absolutely encourage a phone call. You know, now we have Zoom, we have so many ways to connect so that they can get a better sense of who I am as a person. And they can also get a better sense of my teaching by asking as many questions as they want. So they know it's a good investment for them, right? I offer that if we've never had a chance to meet or you've never been in class. And then there's a fourth consideration, which I cannot think of right now, but there is a fourth. Location,
Cool.
the dates, the teacher.
Oh, well,
Welcome to
we'll
the
leave it at that.
40s, I guess, is what we can say.
It all happens. It happens. So I saw you post some really delicious dishes. So, yeah, so I guess you were on a retreat somewhere and you po made those posts. They looked very, very nice. So maybe talk a little bit more about, what do you consider when you pick these spots, like, what goes into the food thought?
Oh, I love this question. So that is actually from the same location, Rancho Galena, right off the Turquoise Trail in Santa Fe. And I was a student on retreat there last October. So that's kind of one of my hard and fast rules. I really like to make sure I've gone to the place, whether it's the country, the
Hmm.
state, the venue. You know, I do drive out to certain venues here in California to vet them to make sure that it's a go and not a no, right?
Yeah.
If people are choosing to come along on an adventure with me, I want to absolutely make sure I can deliver a
Mhm.
quality experience. So that's from the food, from a dynamic duo chef team, a husband and wife, Leslie and Mitch. So that's just their amazing vegetarian forward cuisine with some vegan options. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So check out that picture I was talking about. You'll agree with me. That look very, very delicious. Um, we're coming to the end of our show. But was there anything else that I missed? And you mentioned something earlier.
Mm,
Um, you mentioned something earlier that you're a caregiver, and I didn't want to, not. I don't want to. I know it's your personal stuff, but um, you know, it's pretty hard being a caregiver, right? And I know I want to bring it up because I think sometimes sharing that piece helps other
mm.
people who may be going through or helping or doing part of and trying to run a business and a career. So maybe just,
Sure.
touch on that a bit.
Absolutely. Yes. So to be a caregiver is exhausting. It's also an initiation, right? I view it as my gift to give to my dad, that I can be there for him through these several health challenges that he's been facing and continues to face. And I think what's most striking is when he was first diagnosed with his initial cancer in 2017. He's being cared for with Stanford, so it's an institution here in the U.S. that,
Mm.
creme de la creme. We're so grateful to have been referred there. But they presented me with a caregiver manual that, Jacqueline, I did not read until he was diagnosed with the third one, which was this July. Because I just thought, oh, I don't need to read a manual. It's my dad. Of course I'm going to care for him. But what the manual really covered was how the caregiver cares for themselves, right? Which is such a piece that I think
Mhm.
if you step into that role,
So
whether you're
important.
a parent caring for a child, you're a child caring for an elder parent, you just think it's all about them. And absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. But in order to really care for that person, you also need to care for yourself.
Yeah. It's
You
that
know,
whole, on a plane, put on your own mask first before you put on someone else's, right? That whole
precisely.
concept. So,
Precisely. Yes.
yeah. You can't save someone else if you can't save yourself, right? Like you can't help them if you can't help yourself, kind of thing.
Truly. Truly.
Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that piece. That was quite personal. So thank you. Um, did I miss something? I want to make sure I caught it all.
I thought this was outstanding. There is a gift that I do give to
Oh, perfect.
my Instagram followers when people join me on Instagram and follow. But I'd love to also extend it to your community as well, which is it's called 11 Days of Shavasana. So Shavasana is that
Oh,
final pose where you rest supine on your back, on a mat, on top of your bed, whatever makes you most comfortable. And it's 11 audio recordings that come directly to your inbox. And you'll build your capacity to rest longer in this pose. And it's guided. So you start with a 5-minute hold on day one, working all the way up to 20 minutes on the 11th day. So that's
that
available.
is very nice. So maybe what you can do is when we get offline,
Yes.
send me what it
Yep.
is, and what I'm going to say is I'm going to put it in my little blurb, or maybe you can respond to the blurb to say, hey, this
Sure.
is,
Absolutely.
yeah, something to that effect. And then, at least people know where to go and get it, even if they've missed the show and they come on later,
Yes.
because it sounds very interesting.
You got.
Um, yeah. So how can people reach you as we wrap up?
Yes, so definitely give me a follow on Instagram. I create reels and I think most of them are hilarious. So you can always come into my DMs, ask a question about yoga or retreats. You can reach me on the web, DanaeRobinett.com, and also email me directly. You'll reach only me. I am a one-woman show, solo entrepreneur here as well. Uh, info at DanaeRobinett.com, which is also my Instagram handle, Danae Robinett.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
I so appreciate you.
Like,
And I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and do an interview with me. Very much appreciated. And for all of you watching, I appreciate you. I appreciate when you come on Mondays and you give me your time. Um, as always, keep watching, keep coming back. If you have a topic, that you want me to unpack further, I'm happy to interview a few people, bring some people on the show. So DM me. Once again, my name is Jacqueline Watson, and I am a realtor with Sutton Group in Toronto. So until next Monday. And Ruben, I'm so sorry. I know you just joined and we are like done, but catch the replay because you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. So until next Monday, we'll chat then. Actually, next Monday is Family Day for us. So we probably won't have a show Monday, but I'm gonna be back the following day and you're gonna be excited. My guest is on today. He's gonna be so excited to come on. Yeah, the following Monday. Anyhow, until then, we will chat later. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye.